even if you're an independent operator and you're not in a franchise, and you look and you say, I would like to do what that person's doing, then ask them for help and mentorship, and then do what they say. Like, why would you go back, be like, meh, and then make all your own mistakes? And I see that a lot, and it's heartbreaking as somebody who's been through it to try to help someone and see them make the same mistakes. Good morning, Matt.
Rick, what's going on?
Well, happy birthday to Alloy.
When's the actual official day? Was it yesterday?
I think it was like last week, actually, so we kind of missed it. In our usual fashion of not celebrating wins, we blazed right over our 31st birthday.
31 years.
Cheers. By the way, if you can't, we're drinking, so
cheers.
Hopefully you could hear that.
Special podcast. Pre-warning that this might get a little weird at some points. I'm not meaning to offend anybody, and this is all tongue-in-cheek.
That's right. It's before noon, and we're drinking whiskey. So, and this is something we don't do. Like, if you're watching this, if you're not, I will tell you, Matt, as an awesome, teammate, bought me this really great bottle of Woodford Reserve and a special blend of that. And it's only maybe a third gone. And he gave it to me 2 years ago. So I don't want you guys to mistake us.
Big drinkers around here.
Yeah, I mean, look, drinking's not great for you. We're all trying to operate at the highest level around here, and drinking's not a part of that. But look, every now and then, 31 years, you can have a little
31
drink.
And it was your birthday yesterday.
It was my birthday.
Cheers,
yeah. Also 31 years. Crazy, right?
You tell me, whatever. What, 53?
53 years old. Crazy. I know. Nuts. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It's like, I feel like I read a study that said, like, in your 50s, 50 years old and on is when you're your happiest, because you still have your health, but you kind of like got stuff figured out. Normally you can see the horizon with your kids and stuff. Like 30s and 40s are really hard because you're in the weeds. I mean, like, you've got 3 girls, they're riding horses, Mallory works, you guys are like running and gunning on the weekends. It's hard, man. That's a hard life for anybody.
Sounds like something 50-years-olds would say.
What do you mean?
It's the best time of their life.
What, now?
Yeah.
Bastard. Sounds like an old guy would say that. I'm just trying to convince myself my hip hurts. I'm getting older. Nah, it's a great time, dude. Like, I'm so jazzed about what we're doing. Like, we were just talking about it before, like where we are in the scope of where we thought we would be. Coming out of COVID, not an easy situation for our industry. We weathered that. Sales are brisk, getting clubs open. Happy that you've moved into that seat of coaching clubs, like, after they get their pre-sale chaos out of the way. You come in and coach them on that long-term play, make sure they're running it right and coaching their business. But I feel really good about where we're at. So I haven't had this much. It's like I'm working a lot. I have a lot on my mind, a lot of stress, but I haven't been happy with my work at this level in a long time. It's awesome.
It's cool. I mean, it's nice to wake up and there's going to be different things to tackle. I like, things I hadn't even thought of yet, or, working these hard problems out.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I mean, what is this? Is this third year already?
What's that?
Franchising?
We started at the end of 2019, but you can basically take 2020 out of the mix. So yeah, probably the end of the second year. Now, we really didn't kick in sales until halfway through 2021 or the spring. So really it's been like 18 months of heavy sales, and we're 80 something, 80 plus. Yeah. And when we get this next deal done, we'll be over 100 by the year's end, which will happen. So isn't that crazy? 100 in a year and a half.
That's awesome.
It's nuts. I mean, really, when you zoom out, it's like, that's a lot. As much as we're like, come on,
let's go.
Yeah, we're really hard on ourselves. That's a lot. Now, of course, there's the other side of it, and we're fully aware of the friction between getting them open successfully and all the other things we need to do. But that's not lost on us. So I think we'll get there.
Absolutely.
I didn't bring a dad joke today.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a special
This whole
podcast.
thing is actually going to be a joke?
Yeah, this is a giant dad joke. So how do we title this? So here's what we're going to talk about today. So it's 31 years in business. So in celebration of that, we are going to talk about today the 31 ways to fail in your fitness business.
Yes. Like I said, tongue in cheek, this is going to be humorous. There's always some truth in some of these, but at some of these I'm sure you've actually done.
I've literally done all 31 of these. So this will be fun.
Well,
so as you guys know,
in deeper
a
on some of
salacious
these.
headline will get more traction for us. Everyone wants to know. And I think if you look at it, listen, if you haven't figured this out by now, whatever we're going to talk about today, do the opposite of what we're going to say, and you're going to be just fine. So, Matt, why don't you kick us off?
You ready?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. Let's do it. What's number one?
Number one on 31 ways to fail in the fitness business is trust your emotions, not logic.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Like, just go on feel.
Yeah.
Right?
It's always better.
Yeah. Like if you're really excited about something, that means it's great. Right?
I mean,
Yeah. The way that you feel about your business and, the day-to-day.
I feel like it's going great.
Well, then it is. Don't look at data.
It doesn't matter, right?
Don't look at them. Yeah. Don't look at don't use logic.
It happens, especially with licensing when we were doing that, like a lot of calls. I'm like, how are things? They're going great. I'm like, well, yeah, are they?
I'm not seeing it. Where is it great? Like your health is good. What are you talking about? But yeah, there's that. And then there's also like, people that look, everybody has feelings about every situation. You got an employee that's leaving. You've got things that happen in your business. But by the way, it's just business. It's like it never goes away. It never stops. And if you can't get control of your emotions, you can get too excited about some things, right? You can get too upset about some things. And your emotions aren't trustworthy. It's like you hear these things like trust your gut. I'm like, that's a terrible thing because unless your gut is really good, like if you're talking to Warren Buffett and you're like, trust your gut on this stock, that doesn't really mean he feels a certain way about it. That means he looks at it through the lens of all these years.
This one's going to win.
You're right. This is a winner. Come on, winner, right? FTX, right? Buy your crypto. It's awesome.
Guaranteed.
But I mean, there's a great analogy in the book, Switch, where you've got the elephant and the rider. And the rider thinks they're in charge, and that's the logical mind. And the elephant is which is bigger and stronger and much larger is the emotion, right? And typically, I mean, I think the funny statement is then the elephant does what the elephant does. And listen, we take advantage of that. Like if we can pull people's heartstrings or get them to understand how getting in better shape can affect them positively with their family. Like I'm going to go after those emotions too, because we are emotional beings. Yeah. But through that analogy, you can train the elephant, right? Like the logic is the smaller piece of the puzzle for everyone because we're so wired to look at things through our lens. And a lot of it's like where we are in life and our background and our history and everything. But a lot of times your emotions they aren't true. They lie, right?
Yeah,
they do.
Sleep on all big decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, really like that kind of deal and really look at data, look at logic. Don't make your decisions based on your emotions. And if you can master that, honestly, in your personal life as well, because, entrepreneurship is a self-help journey disguised as a business. It's like, well, you're going to have to be able to get yourself organized in a way to not react and feel like these temporary emotions, which everyone has, by the way, doesn't make them their reality. And it doesn't mean that you need to act upon them. Right?
But you had a lot of emotionary instances when you first opened the gym 31 years ago. How old were you? 20?
22. I mean, my frontal lobe wasn't even fully developed until I was 25.
We won't go into those stories.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of those happen. So that's number one.
Number one, trust your emotions, not logic. All right. Number two, if something works, never do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I've found that to be a very effective technique. If I do something and it works really well, like let's say I try with marketing strategy and it works, don't do it again. Switch it up. Do something different. Probably because I'm not in control of my emotions and I'm bored now. So
that's what I was about to say. It's probably boredom, right?
Yep. So I want to do something else. It's like, listen, we've talked about this before. If we do the same things now, some of them that we did 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's not fun. I don't want to do the same things either. I love new, shiny, exciting stuff as well. But if you find a heat signature on something, I don't care if it's been working for 30 years. If it's still working, keep doing it.
Yeah.
But many entrepreneurs do not. They'll try something, it works, and then they immediately switch it for whatever rat brain reason that's going to solve that entrepreneurial thing that they have. And it's a big mistake. So if you find a heat signature somewhere, keep going.
It's really sad is like, over the years on learning, obviously the systems that came back on board. I mean, I've been here, 12, 13 years? I don't know. I remember, first learning, say, our starting point session. I literally, to this day, run it the same way and have the same lame jokes throughout the whole thing.
Right.
While I do training, I'm like, here, I literally tell people where the jokes are coming in. It's so sad.
And if they go here, we go there. But why, but
it works.
Well, to your point, like selling to a system, right? If it works, why would you then just walk in and wing it? It's either a lack of discipline, which means your emotions are getting the best of you, right? Or you think you have a better way, but if something works, just run the play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, we're going to do this little different hook, or we're going to say it a little differently this way, or we're going to add this in because it's going to make it better.
Yeah, look, I mean, everything that we're talking about today is going to touch on this stuff, but 100%. So if something works, never do it again.
All right, number 3, pioneer, don't disrupt.
Yeah, look, I think it's a really smart decision to say this is a business idea that no one's ever had, ever. I am that guy, right? I'm on the same level as an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs. I have created something that no one's ever seen before. I don't know if there's a market for it. I'm just going on feel.
Right.
I think there's a problem to solve, and I've built this thing. I don't even know if there's a real problem, but I perceive it to maybe be a problem. And I'm going to pioneer this brand new solution that no one's ever done before. Terrible idea.
It's not a good idea?
No. Look at all the most successful businesses. Like they disrupt like Amazon as an example. I mean, look, they're in the tank right now, but whatever. They've been very successful, and they've done it by taking the exact same products that we used to buy. They didn't come up with new products, right? They didn't come up with e-commerce. They just said, okay, here's a cleaner, better way to buy things at a pretty good price and get them in 2 days. Logistics. It was literally removing friction from the same process that we were all already doing. So it's much easier to disrupt something that exists.
Sure.
You know, to do it better, to do it faster, to do it cheaper, whatever those things are, than it is to just come up with a earth-shattering idea. And I think every entrepreneur in their own weird way thinks they've got that juice to come up with that. I've been around it long enough to tell you do not, more than likely. I do not.
It's a new training technique, blah, 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 blah.
All of that, right? Like, look at this piece of technology. And, you know, I feel bad. There's some franchises that have come out now in the fitness space that are based on these wacky tech solutions that have been out for, I've seen 4 iterations of them. But the people that are currently involved, they don't know that it was out also 10 years ago and fell on its face. So like, this is a brand new technology, and you don't want to have the heart to be like, that is not brand new at all. It's been around forever, and it sucks every time it comes out. So it's like your baby's not as cute as you think it is. That's a hard conversation, right?
Yeah. Thanks for always throwing me in those conversations.
I know. Matt's our, if you're a vendor, I'm sorry. You're going to talk to Matt because I don't like to do that because I have all the relationships, and I'll kick him over to Matt, and I'll be like, hey, man, this equipment's kind of weird. Can you just tell him it's not going to work for us? So Matt gets to tell people their baby's not as cute.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right. Number 4, be fancy. Basics are for suckers.
Everybody knows that. Like, there is a secret to a business, and only when the most successful people know it and they don't tell you what it is. That's the misconception. Would you agree?
I think pretty much most of the most successful people out there, especially, you know, on the social media realm, they literally tell you everything to be successful.
Literally.
Flat to your face.
Yeah. Well, everybody will say to me like, you know, like, are you worried about like somebody taking your secrets? I think you and I talked about this in our last podcast about competition. I'm like, no, I've literally told everyone exactly how we do it.
That's true.
For the last 15 years.
Our whole manual is on this podcast.
Yeah. Literally. Everything we do is on this podcast.
Uh-huh.
Does somebody take it and do it? No, they don't, because that's the hardest part, right? I mean, the hard part is putting it into action and operationalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's the absolute hardest thing of all. And I think there's a misconception that there's some secret or there's some tricks or there's some shortcuts, and maybe there's some, but not many. And ultimately what's going to make you successful is just doing the basics well,
just
over and over.
Hard work, 20-mile march. Like, you know, people don't like doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you said it on the last podcast. That's called work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, yeah.
It's not a new marketing technique that I can just like ninja out in my office on a ClickFunnels or something. It's like, no, you got to go out there and work, and you've got to hold your team accountable, and you've got to hire right, and you've got to stay on top of people. And it's like, that is not easy, and nobody wants to hear that.
Bring in Jazzer Roasize and put it into our gym.
That would probably work, actually, in certain markets.
You do hot yoga for 10, cold yoga for another 10, finish with a row.
I'm a heat shock and my cold shock proteins. Well, the difference is, like we've talked about, there's opportunities there, but it's really, your opportunities are like better customer service. That's hard to do because you got people involved.
Just,
right?
you know, be good at something versus just, you know, crappy at a lot of things.
Well, and I think the misconception is at a certain level that people aren't being forthright about what they do. And when they tell you, like if somebody asks me, Rick, you know, let's say it's one gym, how do I run this gym successfully? And I give them the basics. It's going to be something they already know. And they're going to be like, oh, come on, man, really? It's like there's some misconception that there's some other secret sauce that is being withheld from them that they don't know. And when you tell them the basics, they look so disappointed, and they almost look like they don't believe you. Like, that can't be it. I'm like, no, that's it.
Right.
But it's so difficult to show up every day and execute the basics
right.
with integrity really well, that ends up being the thing, right? Shocker. I hate to tell you guys, there's no secret. So,
all right. Number 5, I'm going to lose track of these. Invest in things, not yourself.
Yeah. Look, if you make some money, so if you're in any business, but if you're in the fitness business and you make a little money, buy a really dope sports car.
Did you do this?
No.
Did you?
I didn't make this one. I've never done, but go buy a real expensive house that you can't afford. Go buy a bunch of fancy Gucci bags or whatever. I just heard Gucci was new money, and there's some other kind of purse I should know about. I don't know.
Gucci is new money.
It's like Gucci's for losers. That's new money. I'm like, really?
I hang around with like 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds. I don't know any of this stuff.
If they're in Gucci already, you're in trouble. If your daughters are talking about
That's
Gucci at
Dad.
this age, yeah. What's that mean? But I think a lot of people, the outward appearance of wealth is not wealth, right? Wealth is the gap that you create between the income you make and your living expenses. And, I know guys that live in New York and they make $1 million a year and they spend $999,000, and they're not wealthy. And I know people that are retired that make $60,000 a year and spend 30 and they are wealthy, right? So it's the gap that you create in there.
Right.
If you have any extra income and you're in business for yourself, don't spend it on stuff. Hold off on that. Spend it on education that will upskill you, right? Like if you have a gap in leadership and hiring or visionary work or whatever that is, I mean, man, there's so many resources now. All the Ivy League schools offer online, programs. I've taken a couple of Harvard courses.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like spend money on that because you stacking skills is going to have a direct effect on where you end up in the future versus a new car or whatever. So I think what society will tell you, and if you're on social media, is that that's what you do when you're successful. You buy the pimped out sports car and you try to get the hot ladies and hot dudes and whatever that is, but it's just empty, man. Don't do that.
I mean, you were 22 when you started the gym. What was the first thing you bought when you got some money? It had to be something.
I've never been that guy. I don't get a ton of joy out of that. I mean, I'll buy
Did you buy some new hiking boots? What?
Well, yeah, but that's different, right? Like, all right, I'm going to buy a new mountain bike because I like to mountain bike, and I still wouldn't buy like a car, like the latest greatest $10,000 mountain bike. It's silly. Like I'm just not that guy, Then it goes full swing where it's like, for me now, it's cooler if I see somebody that's really successful and they drive an older car and they don't overspend. I know they have their shit together, so that's actually more noble to me now. Like I drive my dad's old car for nostalgic reasons, but it's a 2008 Land Cruiser. It's a cool ass car, so I drive that. When I started here, you drove like was it a Lexus? It's like an old beat up Lexus. Yeah, like a it was really old. It had like 220,000 miles on it.
Do you remember when we were redoing the gym and like the glass guy showed up, like the owner of the glass company or whatever, and he showed up in like a Lambo?
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah, he pulls up front like a yellow Lambo. What was this guy from Miami? Who is this guy, right?
Yeah, everyone was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
and all those guys are in here working. It's just like a weird...
Look, I don't care if you want to ball out of control and buy a yacht and a Lambo and all that, have at it. But I will tell you, like in certain stages of business, you have no business doing that. And if you have additional revenue and you can create a gap, spend everything you can possibly spend on upskilling yourself because that's going to pay off in the future. That car isn't going to do shit for you. No one cares, by the way. They're too worried about what you think about them to think about what you're made of anyway. So stay away from those traps, that like picture of success, and be fucking successful instead, right? Which means invest in yourself, get better skills, reapply them to your business, and keep going.
In this day and age, everything is perception, and like people, social media, right? Yeah, you look at people. It's the whole game. It's like oh, they're happy, they're successful, they have all the things, right? Versus what's real. So,
well, you can rent a studio setup in LA that has a jet, a Rolls Royce of some sort, right? And the appearance is that you drove up in a Rolls Royce and you're getting onto a private jet, though they're both like not even in commission, right? They're not even running. So it's a movie set, and you go and shoot all these pictures, and then you sell an online course telling other people how to ball out of control, right? Just for the gram, right? So, I mean, everyone's life is curated online, and if you fall into that, it's like, I don't know, it just isn't the best.
Not great for actual business.
Well, invest in yourself. That's like that. There's no better money spent than upskilling yourself, especially early on.
All right, number 6, make your own mistakes.
Yeah, listen, whatever you do, don't look to someone who's in the position that you want to be in and learn from them. Like, take the long road. Make all of your own mistakes. How about we use that through the franchise lens?
Yeah, pretty much fits.
Don't
it
buy a
perfectly.
franchise. Just open your own gym and figure it all out. Or
So you want the
Or it's a crazy notion, but you could buy a proven business model and shortcut the process, right?
It's been around for what, 31 years. Knows
31
all the
years this
systems,
last
knows
week.
knows what not to do, can guide you on. So
Yeah.
what would you talk about before this with the Hermosi? Like, that what you talk about the great, amazing race or whatever.
Oh, yeah. He talked about, what's the story he told? It was pretty interesting. He was talking about there's a couple that won the amazing race, and they won it so many times that they actually weren't invited back because, they'll have it, then they'll have like an alumni game and another alumni game, and they kept winning every time. And they eventually were like, hey, you can't come back because you're killing everybody every time. But their strategy was when they landed in, because they'll fly into some different country, and then you got to like get a taxi and get here quick. And it's all a race, right?
Right.
And it's all these logistics. So their strategy was always to hire someone local in the market that could be like a tour guide for them, that could get them quicker to a car, quicker around the city because they knew all the shortcuts and stuff. And that's how they won. They did that in every scenario. And so when you think about a franchise or a business coach or anything, that's what that person's going to do for you, right? They're going to shorten the process because they've been there, done that, and they're very familiar with the terrain. Does that make sense?
Figure it out for myself.
There are people like that. They're really stubborn. It's like they don't look to, even if you're an independent operator and you're not in a franchise and you look and you say, I would like to do what that person's doing, then ask them for help and mentorship, and then do what they say. Like, why would you go back, be like, meh, and then make all your own mistakes? And I see that a lot, and it's heartbreaking as somebody who's been through it to try to help someone and see them make the same mistakes. Now, that's why I love franchising, because it's like, no, you have to do this. So we're sort of protecting people from themselves in a lot of ways, right? Yeah. You don't have to have a bunch of harebrained ideas. I promise you, if it was relevant, I would give it to you. I promise. Otherwise, just run the play.
Yeah.
So the other way to put that would be like, buy a franchise, do your own thing. Great idea. Terrible idea. So anybody's in our franchise system, do what we're telling you, because I promise we are so aligned.
We have all good franchisees. Nobody's doing that.
We do.
All right. Number 7, react, don't think.
Yeah. Look, if something comes up in your business, and it will, fly off the handle immediately. Scream, yell, jump down everybody's throat. Whatever you do, don't go home and sleep on it and really think about it. Right. Just react in the moment.
Back to the emotions again. Huh?
Yeah. Well, again, ultimately overreaching, that's what that is you're controlling your emotions in a way that you don't overreact to everything. We all know those people that, like, I've certainly been guilty of this, where, they kill the messenger, right? Like, hey man, this happened. And what? Oh my God. Everything just goes from a 0 to 100, like super quick. No one that does that is seen as a good leader. And it's not a noble, character trait to have, is to be an inflammatory hothead, right? Or to cry, it's like, look, just try to keep your shit together, zoom out, keep your emotions under control, time is the key. Time is the antidote to anger, right? And I don't know anybody that's ever gotten really angry about something or about someone and then was happy they did it the next day.
Right.
No one, ever, right? Yeah. So it's like, don't do it. Don't get upset. Don't take things personally. Zoom out, give it time, because time is the antidote. Make a decision later. Like, we're always in this big rush to run around and get everything done. And while you can move fast, but still move fast, like, diligently, right? And with a good mindset. And that's key. It's not easy to do, but it goes back to keeping your emotions in check. Don't be reactive, because no one's going to want to be around you, and no one's going to share information if you fly off the handle everything you hear.
That's a good one. That's something definitely, like, as a parent. Yeah. Like that one.
I feel like you do good at that, though. You're wired well to
see me
take
outside
in.
Of here.
Yeah. Are you? Because I don't see you being that way.
No. I am definitely the calm, chill, take it in versus my lovely wife, Mallory. Love you. She's a little bit more fly off the handle.
Well, and I think in the marriage,
more emotion driven.
Well, that girl. I think in those marriages it works, right? Because you need that balance. Because, like, if somebody's picking on the kids, Mallory's going to walk on the bus and beat their ass, right?
I told you that story. That really happened.
I know. I guess I'm sorry, Mallory. Mallory's like, I can't believe you said
when
that.
She was a kid. It wasn't as an adult.
Okay. She was underage. She's 17. Beat somebody up. But I think you do a good job of, like, because a lot of things are coming at us these days, and not all of them are fun, and some are, seem more critical than they are, but you always do a good job of taking it in. I can tell you might not like it, which nobody would, but then you do a good job of, like, processing it, and then you come back with a calm, sensible response, right?
That's right.
Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do.
We can make it happen, but it's definitely a learning, like, over time kind of thing.
Yep, for sure.
All right, number 8, listen to people less successful than you.
Yeah, look, if you want to be successful in business, listen to your uncle that doesn't have two nickels to rub together, right? Or maybe your parents never made any money and they're giving you advice, or maybe your friends, maybe your friend circle is a bunch of losers, no offense, that are very unsuccessful because they are very emotional and they make bad financial decisions and they've had failed business, dealings, or maybe they just trend negative. So they just go and tell you negative stories about people that have been in business. That's never going to make it, blah, blah, blah. So don't listen to those people. Change your friend group. I mean, there's so many cliche sayings around. You're the byproduct of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but I do think it's true. And
it is true, yeah.
I think you need to get yourself around people that are of a growth mindset, that are somewhat risk tolerant, right? That can understand that you're trying to do something, whether it's lose weight, because people can sabotage you there from all kinds of reasons, jealousy or whatnot. Same thing with opening a business. Like, you think everyone's on your side, but even some people that are in your close circle deep down don't want to see you succeed. I know it sounds really negative, but it's true. And you just need to be able to recognize that. And it's okay. I mean, if they're in your family and there's a lot of good attributes, you can't get rid of them. They're in your family. But what you can do is you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to take like hard business advice from those folks, especially if they're in a station that, if they're not where you want to be, right?
Right.
They might even be ahead of you, but if they're not where you ultimately want to be, they may give you advice that doesn't serve you well.
This one just straight screams franchise for me. I mean, it's you imagine doing it on your own and dealing with all those things, but in a franchise setting, you literally have, it's a partnership with us. We want you to succeed. We are going to guide you. / you're surrounded by all our other franchisees that want the same thing.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. I'm seriously going to lose track. There's a lot of these. Number 9, hire people just like you.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's important to have different skill sets on a team. That's so weird. Just hire, sit down with somebody. Like, me, I'm an idea guy. I try to do vision work. If I hired someone like me who I'd probably really enjoy interviewing and talking to because they have all these big ideas and this and that.
Nothing will get done.
Zero. Not a damn thing would get done. So you really need to understand that as you're building a team, you have certain roles that need to be filled, and there are certain makeups of individuals. So the most basic one is you've got the idea person and the implementer. And on our team, that's really easy. It's like I've got me as the idea person. I got Suzanne as the COO. She's the implementer, right? She can put processes together. And you guys are kind of in on that right now as well. But I mean,
come on, bro.
Yeah. Matt's like, I just built the whole damn thing. Yeah. I mean, everybody here. So it's, we're talking about some other initiatives and like you're like, I don't know if we need that, and I love the pushback and the friction because in there somewhere is where the magic is, right? It's like, it can't be all ideas. It also has to be implementation. So I come in with these big ideas. Those ideas have to be operationalized by the team.
You don't want a team of yes men?
Well, exactly. You run the risk of that, right? And that's a terrible environment. That's probably another level that I didn't even think about here, where if you just surround yourself with people that not only are they might be like you, so they're going to agree with all of your ideas because they're wired the same way, but you could end up with just a team of weak sauce people that just because you're this overpowering idea person, they all just say, yeah, that's a great idea. And it's not always a great idea. You really need the checks and balances. I mean, it sounds negative. You're really good at that. You're always like, that's a terrible idea. And I'm like, all right, but I relish that. I really do. And we have a little bit of, you're like, I don't know. And we're like, Burr. But I leave that thinking this is awesome. This is what I want for my team.
Well, I say is growth. I mean, somebody's got to, look at other sides of things, right? You don't want anybody just yep, let's do it.
Well, yeah, like we talked about the Enneagram test, and there's one profile that's they always come off as a Debbie Downer.
I didn't have that. Don't put me as a Debbie Downer.
No, you weren't. But I'm saying at its worst, the seats that person might want to be in are finance, legal, right? They're going to keep you out of trouble, right? They're going to keep the story about the chimpanzees and all the sixes. I think they removed the complainers from the tribe, and a year later, the whole rest of the tribe is dead because no one was saying hello, Jaguar.
Yeah, well, I just I look, we bring new things on, and we're always looking to get better, bring it back to the core values you created and you put in, right? Basic, simplest one, keep it simple. That's what I was, come back with.
Well, and that's good. Sometimes my ideas aren't simple, and it takes the filter of someone like you to be that's too complicated because you understand you're putting it into play. I'm not. Right. So I bring it to you, and then you're like, I have to coach that. That's way too complicated. And then I'm like, is it? And I push you to really think about it, and you're like, yeah, I've thought about it for 2 days. It's too complicated. I'm like, fine. I'll listen to you.
It could go the other way, right? It's I could come back with all right, yeah, you're right. But that's what you want. You want to have that.
What you don't want, like you said, is a bunch of people being like, okay,
Right.
And either they're apathetic, like they don't care. They're just there to get a paycheck and move on. And they're not invested in their role, or they're just a wimpy, and either way, you're not doing, or they're just like you. And so the whole table's like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. All ideas. And then, lo and behold, you're going to run
so hire people like you or a
cliff.
whole team of weak sauce.
A whole bunch of weak sauce. I just gave Matt a refill, so it should get interesting.
So we're 9 in and I'm on the second glass. I am screwed. All right. Number 10, if you fail once, quit.
Yeah. Look, if you run into a tough spot in your business and you get some negative feedback, or maybe you run into a roadblock, just quit.
I know you didn't do this one, clearly.
Yeah. Don't keep going, because like everyone just hits a home run the first time up. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many businesses started out as this and became something else? Like one of the biggest fitness franchises in the world, and I have a lot of respect for these guys at Self-Esteem Brands. When they started Anytime Fitness, they were like, when we first started this, it was going to be a really low maintenance gym model that we would sell to personal trainers. So personal trainers would buy it. They would train their clients in there, and then it would be like a free membership on top of that. And as it turned out, it was a terrible idea. Like personal trainers typically weren't making good business people. They couldn't get the investment threshold. They couldn't get multi-clubs open. I'm just saying as a whole. That's not all of them. But when you talk to those guys, it's so funny. Like, this was our plan. Terrible idea, right? And I think everybody goes through that. But a lot of people, if they're not wired the right way and they don't see failure as an opportunity to learn, again, it's so cliche, but business is a series of small failures that become learning opportunities, and you don't repeat those failures. That's the only way. No one goes smoothly from point A to point B without some hiccups. It's impossible to do it.
There's probably not a successful person out there that doesn't say that exact same thing.
I mean, Amazon, it was a book sales only. And I mean, look, things start, and you have to start down the road before you can identify where you're going. You can't do it all from the start line. You got to get out there, start moving, and adjust the sales as you go. You can't figure it all out before you start. It's impossible. So ready, fire, aim without, completely, blowing the thing up. Ready, fire, aim's the way to go. Get moving, fix it as you go. If you make a mistake, and you will, chalk it up as a learning experience. Don't repeat it, but put processes in place to avoid it, whatever that is.
Sure.
But most people don't do that. They stop just shy of that uptick, of that hockey stick.
Nothing worth doing isn't going to have bumps in the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not a thing.
And sometimes if you're just not resilient, right, when you have that one failure, to you, it's an indictment on who you are and your idea. It's not. It might be 2 degrees to the right. And that may not seem like much now, but 5 years down the road, you're pretty far away from where you were, and that's okay, right? And so just keep an open mind. Be ready to fail. Be ready to be wrong. It's part of the decision-making tree that we use. Prepare to be wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And if you are, adjust and go. No big deal. That's part of the process.
Yeah, great. All right, number 11. Love this one. Have at least 8 streams of revenue.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea. I want 8 streams of revenue.
Everybody does. I love that on Instagram. You need 7 streams of revenue. And what's funny is that gets so ingrained that when I'm talking to franchise candidates, they're like, what are our other opportunities for streams of revenue? Like, what else can we do in this business? I'm like, and I'll say nothing. And you know what? You don't need to. I would highly encourage that you didn't even try. And they're like, why? Because I've been in the gym industry for 30 years. The last 15, I've been licensing clubs. And in licensing, there's no control. You're just trying to help them with that one function, right? Sure. And man, I will tell you, most people, if they have 7 or 8 things going in a small business, all 7 or 8 are half-baked. Right. It's hard to identify the one thing that you're going to hitch your wagon to. Mm-hmm. But if you can spend some time thinking and you do hitch your wagon to something and you be the absolute best at that thing, you don't need 7 line items of revenue. You don't. So if you look at our business, it's just personal training.
Yeah.
You do memberships. Do you do this? Do you do that? Yeah, we do memberships 1, 2, or 3 times a week because that's 99% of what people do, right?
Yep.
Keep it simple. Keep going. Okay, well, what if I want to do this? No, you know what you need to do? Better customer service. Like you could keep leveraging this one revenue stream to its maximum before you add anything else. There's back scratching. Can you do like a back scratching service or product supplements? Sure, that makes a good one. But I wouldn't even look at that until you nail the main thing, right? It's kind of like what you've been talking about now that you're leaning into the ongoing coaching side. And you're like, man, I'm not even going to coach that until we can nail this. And I've heard you talk to people about that. And I think that's the perfect move. It's like step by step, right? So you don't need 7 or 8 line items of revenue. Normally when someone's doing that, they have done one thing really well. and maybe they had an exit, right? And then they take that money and then they invest in different companies, but they're not working in them. At one point in time, they did the thing, and they did it so well, so much better than everyone else, that it afforded them the opportunity eventually to invest in things.
Right.
But you don't do it at the low level. You don't do it when you're at 500K in revenue. You just do the thing, right? You
keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, man, it's
It used to
hard.
be like the gyms that we talk about it, to bring in all different types of modalities and rowing and cycling and spin and whatever, all yoga, but they end up just cannibalizing themselves.
100%. Yeah. Great way to put it. And cannibalization is not just money, right? It could be attention, bandwidth. It's sneaky like expenses, like labor goes up because you're servicing this thing now that really nobody wanted. They all said they wanted it. Your members did. And you know what I mean?
All two of them,
yeah. Exactly. You get it.
All right. Number 12, be happy.
Terrible goal.
You grumpy old man.
It does sound like that. Nobody's happy, damn it. There's 100,000 books, almost 100,000, like 99,000, whatever, on the market right now for self-improvement to improve happiness. And would you say as a society we're happier overall?
No, I think it's actually proven we're sadder.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And you know why? It's like if your sole focus is to make yourself happy, it's like trying to be cool. Like the harder you try, the worse it's going to get, right? You can't try to be happy. What people really mean is you need a purpose. Like you need something to get up for every day that's compelling enough to, it doesn't matter if you're happy or not. There's a real why, right?
I mean, it's so relative based on what you're doing, and other people in the world are, going through terrible things. That's what I think. I mean, I remember coming in those early morning shifts, somebody at 5 a.m. and I'm like, this is great. It's all good. I literally have, the opportunity to do these kind of things. Right?
Yeah.
And
that's
create your whole
put
mindset, right? To be happy.
Right. And that's fleeting anyway.
Make me happy.
Well, and what does that even mean? I mean, at the end of the day, like you could be feeling a little off one day. Are you happy? I don't know. But if your purpose is big enough that you're going to get up and do it anyway, because that's really what happiness is, right? We've talked about this before, where you upskill yourself, and it's a struggle, and growth is messy and disorganized, and it's painful, right? Because you're kind of killing off parts of yourself at times to move forward. Like the person that you are now, Matt, is not going to be the same person business-wise that you're going to need to be when you've got 7 employees underneath you and we have 300 franchises open, right? You're going to have to be a different leader. Like you're going to have to be wired differently. You're going to have to learn different skills. Same with me, same with everybody on our team. And we're going quick. So it's almost every 6 months we're like upskilling ourselves, right? That's worthy of getting out of bed for, especially when our end product changes people's lives. Am I happy every day? No. I mean, I'm grumpy, looks like anybody else. You have your off days, kids keep you up at night, whatever those things are, that's not the goal. And if that's your sole focus, because it's ebbs and flows, when you're not, air quotes, happy, you're going to think something's wrong, right? Like I'm having a bad day because I didn't sleep at all last night and I've got a busy day tomorrow and all these meetings, and they're very impactful meetings. It's like, okay, so that means you're not happy. It just means you didn't get much sleep last night. Just chalk it up and move on, right?
Right.
Tomorrow you will and you feel great. But the purpose is really what people need. They don't need to be happy. And if you focus on that, you're never going to be happy.
Word. Number 13, always swing for the fences.
Yeah, look, don't get up and just plug away every day and do base hits, right? Go for the home run. Like go for the big one. And I've seen people give up on the main thing. Like, I mean, again, we're reskinning the same sort of phrase, but keeping the main thing. The main thing is basically like you have to be able to say no to really good opportunities, right? So that you can just block and tackle, move the ball slowly down the field. That's actually how business is done successfully. Right. And every now and then you might have I'm using football analogies obviously, but you might have a long play down the field and that's great. But you might not. It might be 3 yards in a cloud of dust every single time. Yeah. And that's fine, but it's boring. You have to be patient. You have to understand where you're going. You have to be able to track that progress and see where you're trending. If not, then again, it goes back to a scattershot approach, always looking for that home run. But as you know, most really good home run hitters also strike out a ton. And in business, that's not a great strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I see this one like really plays into like customer experience kind of stuff we talk about, right? The best companies had an average customer experience kind of score, right? Point. Versus every day I'm going to be the best experience. It's going to be awesome every day. And inevitably you're letting people down or it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because I didn't even connect the dots on that. But that's key is you're better off providing a pretty good customer experience consistently. And again, McKinsey and Company proved this, right? Companies that could consistently deliver a 5 out of 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. A 5 out of 10. I mean, no one gets around the boardroom table and says, our goal this year is to be dead on mediocre, right? They don't, because you're thinking 10s all the time.
Yeah.
That's not possible. That's home runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can just hit a 350 average, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame kind of idea. So we're just going to go to work every day, and these are the basics, and we're going to deliver on those basics. It's not about the crazy stories that you hear about somebody returning a set of tires to Nordstrom when Nordstrom doesn't they don't sell tires, but they take them back, right? Those are great stories. And in this book, and the book's called Be the Best at What Matters Most, I believe. Anyway, that is at least the tagline in the book. And they talk about a restaurant. And the restaurant at one point in time got some news coverage because it was pre-COVID, but there was someone who had gotten sick. It was like a cancer or something. And they posted on social media that one of the things they really missed was going to their favorite restaurant. Somebody on the wait staff at the restaurant saw the post, alerted the manager, and the manager put together a meal, and they had someone drive it over to this lady's house. Now, that's freaking awesome service. And now you would think like, wow, that company, they've got it figured out, right? But when you look on their Google reviews, they were like 3.2 stars. And when you read about what they did wrong, it was like the food quality wasn't always the same.
Forever does it down.
They were understaffed. Yeah. Customer service wasn't great. So to hit a home run every now and then is not as compelling as to show up and do pretty good every single day. But the discipline and the conviction that it takes to do that, it's much harder than just catching one every now and then.
Well, it's just if you're so up and down, again, it plays back to the very first one. It plays on people's emotions. So then you get the emotional response from it. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Number 14, be like Scott.
I love this one. So Amundsen and Scott, 2 Arctic explorers, both racing to be first to the South Pole. Mm-hmm. Scott was British, I believe. I think Amundsen was Norwegian, I believe. And they started their expeditions at roughly the same time, and they took 2 distinctly different strategies. So Scott was the guy that was get while the getting's good and then hole up when things are bad, right? And so imagine like you're in Antarctica, the weather's horrendous. So like one day it might be sunny and you're like, all right, we're going to go as far as we can on the sunny days, and on the stormy days, we're just going to hole up in the tents and wait till the storm blows over. So it's sort of an erratic pace, surge, stop, get really tired, exhausted, sleep for a few days, whatever that was. And Amundsen, on the other hand, did what we often refer to in our business terms, the 20-mile march. So he said, no matter what, we're going to do 20 miles every day. Weather's horrendous, we're going to push through. Weather's really nice and sunny, we're going to hold back. And when you hear that through the lens of like business, right? It's like, how many businesses do you know that when things are good, they overextend themselves, right? I'm going to expand the gym by this many feet. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to open 3 more gyms. And believe me, I'm growth mindset all the way. I'm that guy, right? Mm-hmm. Takes a lot of discipline as much to hold back during those times as it does to push through during your difficult times.
Yep.
And if you did, I mean, we saw it, like COVID was a big exposure for a lot of people that were overextended. And it was a timing issue, but it also kind of lends itself to maybe you should never get overextended like that, right? Too leveraged. What is it that Warren Buffett says? Like, you never know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. Well, the tide went out at COVID, and there was a lot of people who didn't have pants on. It's like, oh, what were you doing? And they were like, we just opened our 5th gym, and we leveraged this and that, and we took all the profits from the other ones, and then now they're all closed, and I have 0 margin in my life, right? Yeah. Personally or professionally. So it's like, oof. So that's what that means, is be more like, don't be Scott. I know it says be Scott, not Amundsen, but be more like Amundsen, right? 20-mile march. Have discipline when times are good. Have discipline when times are bad.
Got it.